Salvis Search for the Universe, Chapter 6, Part 1. The halls echoed with the sound of armored feet. Rippling fabric bellowed 5 feet behind the gallant figure of the marching man, crimson red, matching the colors of his noble house, as well as his great lion's mane of hair. 2 squires followed meekly behind. 4 guards appeared around the next corner and immediately saluted. "Wait here," he ordered. His squires obeyed, staying behind as he stomped ahead. The guards were amongst the most elite soldiers they employed, and still he towered over them. Even without his sword at his waist, his yoke-like shoulders and brick of a face would have made even the most confident toughs think twice before taking him for a scrap. He flung open the doors. They slammed against the walls like a giant's gavel, and would have silenced the room had it not already been silent. He surveyed the inside of the castle's great meeting hall. Solemn faces sat around the great round table, like 2 rows of sepulchre statues set around a coffin. They quaked ever so slightly, eyes lost in varying degrees as they attempted to master their own internal panic. Except for one. The man sitting at the head of the table. His father. Though Lord Fairisles looked unconquerable, Tybalt knew he felt it just as much as any other. By the gods, in this situation, someone had to look in control. He had only just arrived, but from what paltry information he had been given, this was the worst possible situation. If there was any doubt left about the importance of that pendant, this had proven it. The guards closed the door behind him. Anyone who could have said to be the head of something was there. Amongst the usual suspects was the chamberlain, the keeper of the ledgers, and even the head of the kitchens. This truly affected the entire estate. Tybalt finally found the scarred face of the captain of the guard amongst the rows of heads. He rounded on him, eyes ablaze. "Malcor!" he bellowed. "You disgrace! Your failure's enough to make 3 bloody fools appear genius. Stolen? By a thief right under your noses, and under your command!" Malcor flinched. His knitted fingers tightened as he suffered the abuse the same way a flagellant welcomes the kiss of a whip. "Father, you should!" "That's enough, Sir Tybalt." Lord Fairisles' voice was cool and heavy like lead. "He is well aware of his failure, and these circumstances were, well, outside any expectations." They shared a meaningful glance. Tybalt grunted. He turned away, almost disgusted, and sat down beside Abram, who was perhaps the only one who wasn't trying to hide their panic. "I am glad to see you have arrived safely, Sir Tybalt." He wished his father would call him boy, or son, or anything else than his title. But that was just the way his father was. Our forward party scouted some brigadiers hiding in the forest outside, but he ran off at the first whiff of us. Couldn't have been more than 24, he said nonchalantly, and crossed his arms. He felt bad for Malcor. He himself did not blame him for what happened, but his father did, in spite of all he said. Always his father expected him to do all the saber-rattling for him. Say what needed to be said, shake some fists, show some teeth, and after which his father would swoop in and offer the shaken man a cold, innocent compromise. He had done this so many times he had lost count. Manipulating people like that always left a bad taste in his mouth. That is just as well. However, you are wrong about one thing, Sir Tybalt. This attack extended beyond the mere thievery. Nor was it the work of a mere thief, but two. He laced his fingers, rings tinkling as he did. Much has happened after your arrival. He listened intently, nose over knuckles, as Lord Fairisles explained everything in deep detail. The mood darkened. Servants had brought wine, chilled with mountain ice, but it was scarcely touched, and those who did looked bleakly into their cups, as if wishing it were something stronger. Through the toilet? Indeed. Then we're not dealing with humans. Yes. Cavan, the spidery architect, squeezed in. This is the work of either a gnome, kobold, or halfling. Discounting any fey folk, nothing else could fit through that gap. I measured it thoroughly. I had never considered such a thing. I will have iron bars installed immediately, but... Fairisles cut him off. Only one of them was non-human. The other one was most definitely human. He spread his hands expectantly. Malcor? Malcor was in a far-off place, and it took him a moment. Oh, my deepest apologies, my lord. He swallowed and began. The human infiltrated the castle some time ago, most likely around the same time as the original target, Mr. Hobb. When he realized the target no longer had a pendant, he tortured him for information before murdering him. Judging by the extent of the torture, it is unlikely that Mr. Hobb revealed anything before his death. The head physician nodded in confirmation. After that, the assassin spent several days lurking inside the castle, setting up those sleeping traps of his. Several of the servants report briefly seeing someone they did not recognize, but as they had no reason to suspect anyone, they did not report it at the time. Yes, Fairisles hummed, swirling his wine. It was our mistake to keep this information amongst only a few. We feared what would happen should it spread, but we did not consider consequences of our reticence. Tybalt blinked. It was unheard of for his father to admit fault for anything. He rarely showed weakness and would always find someone to pin the blame on when his best laid plans fell apart. But now, this was serious indeed. What makes you certain he is human? Tybalt suddenly asked. It was a stupid question, but he was trying to cover for Lord Fairisles' momentary lapse. "My men saw him at the gate," he said matter-of-factly. "Say he moved like a shadow, he did. Went right through the front gate." "What?" He slammed his palms on the table. "And why was the gate not closed? Hadn't the alarm already sounded by then?" "It did, but the boss had jammed the mechanism somehow. He was no amateur. He had his escape route secured even before he started. And judging by how he slipped past and outran half a dozen of my guards, he was no ordinary human either." A soldier suddenly entered, saluted, and jogged up to Malcor before stooping to whisper into his ear. Malcor whispered something back, and the man was off again as quickly as he had came. "I've got my men investigating the mysterious cargo that was smuggled past the checkpoint. Likely that's where the bastard got all those sleeping bombs. It seems the merchant who had brought them in is long gone. They'll keep looking into it. Hopefully we can get a clue of who this bastard is and where he came from." Tybalt fell back into his seat. The wood creaked, only barely managing to withstand his muscular girth. He crossed his arms again. "So, we're stuck." He looked grim. "What of the other intruder?" "They infiltrated the castle the same night as the theft to help the original intruder with the search for the pendant. The guards at the garden reported seeing something disappear over the garden wall, but that is the only sighting we have of that particular intruder, though they were anything but subtle." He trailed off. Nearly every room had been rummaged through, which was to be expected from thieves searching for something hidden. But the broken chandelier and the bloodstain on the floor of Lord Fairisles' own room defied any explanation. Had they mistakenly believed it struck Lord Fairisles and thought their work done? Then why was there blood? He was unconscious. Why not simply slit his throat and be done with it? It was a mystery, but it did not bear much thinking. There were more pressing issues to be addressed. "If I may interject?" asked Harvald the chemist. Fairisles waved him on. He adjusted his glasses and spoke, his voice weak and meek as always. "I do believe our intruder was a kobold. You see, a particular gas that was used is commonly referred to as trope gas. It is primarily made by the kobolds, because they are the only ones apart from the noble dwarves capable of extracting the ingredients from the stone. It is mostly comprised of..." "Of course it was a kobold." The head chef's generous cheeks jiggled. "All those quicksilver ferns must have rotten your head. Look at my cheese! Do you think gnomes and halflings have teeth like that?" Haraval shrank back. Now, please control yourselves." Abram finally joined in. Though he was timid as a mouse, he was still his father's chief advisor, and perhaps his only true confidant. He looked around the room as if seeing for the first time. When did you arrive, my boy? I'm sorry I did not notice. I was lost in my thoughts again. He smiled weakly. Truthfully, Tybalt thought of him as something close to a father figure. He had known familiar love growing up. His father had cast aside his mother the moment the noble house had fallen, and he had been no less cold in his dealings with him, though he did not fault him for it. The world of the nobles was cutthroat. Lord Fairisles had forced him down the path of nobility, and cared not for his childish protests. But Abraham had always been there to offer a little warmth. I know these are trying times, but we should not overreact, he said, but his hollow expression immediately fingered him as a hypocrite. City gates were closed for the night, and we were able to send words before they were opened again. The perpetrator is definitely trapped inside the city. Now, we must simply flush them out like rats from a sewer. It is simple, really. We need as many guards as we can muster searching the streets. The beggar slum seems the most likely place to hide, but we cannot count out the city docks and the trade districts either. Citywide patrols have already been set up, but we need to search each district individually. For this I propose... Oh, pay attention, Malcor. Malcor drew his lips into a line. Objecting was pointless. It was obvious who had the Lord's favour. 3 squads should investigate each district, while 2 sentries should be placed at every entrance and exit. Runners will distribute information, and the formation should move as a unit. Yes. He nodded at himself. They should move like a bubble from district to district, filling any open streets, so anyone suspicious cannot slip past between transitions. Yes, I believe this is the best course of action. Malcor, said Lord Fairisles. Make it done. Yes, my lord. He stood, bowed, and left the room. His lieutenant stepped in shortly after and filled the captain's vacant seat. What I still cannot puzzle out is the actual purpose of this pendant. I have wrecked my brain over it, but I fear the years are catching up to me, he admitted with a sigh. There was a slight silence before someone rapped at the door. 2 soldiers stepped in and saluted. One wore the uniform of the elite guard, the other appeared to be of middling rank. Not quite a street guard, but not quite a castle guard either. He was likely a guard at one of the city gates. His face was the most striking thing about him. Soldier Gavin, the elite soldier announced. He spotted a kobold attempting to enter the city yesterday afternoon. Everyone around the table suddenly leaned in. See? I told you! The chef barked and was spared a glare from the head of the table. Please tell us what you saw, soldier, urged Lord Fairisles. Yes, my lord. The kobold first entered the city by running straight past the checkpoint. I caught them shortly after and brought them to the booth to enter properly. Entered properly? Tybalt slammed the table. Why did you not arrest them? What sort of incompetence are we staffing the checkpoints with? No doubt this is how the gas bombs were smuggled in too. Now pipe down, you strenuous oaf, the head housekeeper lambasted. This meeting is already bad enough without you blowing out everyone's ears. He growled and sat down. That hurt his feelings. Just because she changed his nappies when he was a little boy, she thought she could say anything to him. His father wouldn't say anything. He liked strong-headed people. So it was never directed towards him. Excuse my forwardness, sir, but it's not against the law for kobolds to enter the city under the new decree of the king. Ah, yes, that decree. The Lord mused, staring at his wine. Unfortunately, the years has not been kind on the king. I imagine that particular law will go away after an event such as this. It was more of a promise than a possibility. Gavin carried on, straight-backed and serious. As it turns out, they did not have the money required to pay the visitors' tax and were turned away at the gate. They sat outside the gate until nightfall and were left outside. After that, I cannot say what became of them. Everyone seemed to consider the new information. Gavin took a breath, summoned his courage and saluted, his back as stiff and straight as an iron rod. With all due respect, I have met that kobold. I do not believe them capable of what they stand accused of. If not of good nature, then incompetence. Had he really just said that? Dozens of eyes drilled through him. The god beside him looked at him as if he had told the Lord an off-colored joke. "My lord," began the other one, almost sarcastic in tone. It should be known that they found the clothing of that creature outside the main drain of the aqueducts with the iron bars ripped out. Inside the clothes we found poisonous leaves. It appears they were forced to leave them behind in order to fit. Is that so? Lord Fairisles fixed at Gavin with a stare. His rigid face turned pale, but his salute held firm. Relax, soldier. Your service is recognized. I do believe that if your testimony stands for anything, it is a testament to this intruder's skill in deception. You are dismissed. Yes, my lord. They chanted in unison, then turned and walked like mechanical dolls. Before the door could swing shut, another soldier had already marched in. He saluted quickly. We found this in Lady Animal's room. My daughter! Tybalt roared. They were in my daughter's room? Why have no one told me this? His accusing gaze darted from face to face. Calm yourself down. She's unharmed. Lord Fairisles squinted at him. It was one of the few times Tybalt was genuinely enraged. On their search for the pendant, the intruder entered her room while she was unconscious and ransacked her closet. Nothing more. What is that? Abram beckoned. Let me see it. The soldier walked over and he snatched it from his hands. A silver imperial? Did they drop it? Or are they mocking us? He sank into thought. Another elite soldier burst in, more than a little ragged from his run. He skipped straight through the formalities and announced, "There have been several sightings of the kobold walking the streets." "What?" Lord Fairisles spread his gnarled hand on the table and stood, domineering the room as if he had grown twice as tall. His other hand still clutched his silver goblet of wine. "The street guards have gotten hundreds of complaints about a kobold matching the description of the one seen outside the gate, running through the streets and raising absolute hell. Trampling over merchandise wares, running inside and out of stores for no good reason, attacking people's legs, picking fights with people on the streets, and is hardly half of it. All of them claim to have seen a kobold wearing an expensive gold pendant, one that appears to be broken. It's as if they're purposely trying to be seen." The room grew unnaturally still. The air felt as thick as old stew and as heavy as lead. Lord Fairisles gritted his teeth. His old fingers cracked as they balled into fists. "What is the meaning of this? Do they intend to distract us with a fake? Is it their goal to play the sacrificial lamb, hoping that we will relax our guard and let their cohort slip undetected with the real pendant? Or are they taunting us? Catch me if you can. Is what they are trying to say?" He growled, jaw clenched. His voice rumbled like a great volcano, long thought to be dormant. Everyone looked away, afraid to catch a single spark of the Lord's boiling hate. "Take me as a fool? I will bear them to their graves." Dark red wine spilled down his hand like blood. He glanced, noticed he had crushed his silver goblet, and did not care. He slammed it into the table and roared. "Bandar!" The lieutenant shot up as if scalded. "Gather all your men. Do not sleep. Do not rest until that damn creature lay at my feet. Beat them, bloody them, but bring them to me alive. Understand? They are not allowed to die until I show them what hell looks like. I will get my answers if I need to peel every scale from its disgusting body." Yes, my lord," Bandart shouted, sweat beading. "If you fail, I will kick your head off the highest tower and eat my supper as the crows pick out your eyes. Now go." Bandar rushed to the door, already shouting orders to any soldier he could see. Lord Fairisles collapsed into his chair, shoulders heaving. His long grey hair hung disheaved over his wild face. The silence congealed, and he turned that face onto Tybalt. He had a bad feeling about this.